Sando, and my interviewee is Father White, and the date is November 20th.
Just got back from the Ellen show.
It's November 20th, and it says Seton Hall. Okay, so on a scale of very good, fair, poor, or very bad, how would you rate your knowledge of the Bible?
I would say very good, since I teach it. Very good. I fell in love with the Bible when I was in high school, and informally as well as formally, I've used it in my spiritual life on a regular basis, and I've studied it thoroughly.
Okay, and how important is the question of method in interpreting Scripture? Things like fundamentalism, relativism, and historical critical method.
What's very important, if you're interpreting things in a fundamentalistic way, you're going to take things out of context, take some things too literally, and it's going to look foolish. The historical critical method, in a balanced way, it can be a tremendous asset to understanding the deeper meaning of what's going on, because ultimately the goal is you want it to help your spiritual life, and you can apply that to get a deeper meaning to help your spiritual life. If you use the historical critical method to an extreme where it's purely an academic exercise devoid of spirituality, and you're just like ripping the scriptures apart like Swiss cheese, that can be the other extreme to fundamentalism. So you want to strike a balance.
Okay, and do you know of any contradictions in Genesis creation accounts between themselves?
Yeah, but when you use the historical critical method and you know which literary form you're dealing with, if you're, it's not a problem. It becomes a problem if you're going to take the Genesis account as history or science. Then you got some big problems. But if you can see it as the way I describe it to my students, it's like a gift. And the gift has wrapping paper. The literary form, the mythical form, and the symbolism in that form is like the wrapping paper. You want to cut through the wrapping paper to get to the core message. And the core message is spiritual theological truth, not scientific historical truth. And if you do it that way, contradictions don't matter.
And do you believe that truth cannot contradict truth? If so, explain.
Truth is truth, and if it's real truth, I don't believe it can contradict truth. And if it seems to contradict truth, then both groups or people that are seeking the truth need to delve deeper and find out what's going on. Because the very nature of that question, it's like a circular question. If truth were if real truth were to contradict real truth, that's the biggest contradiction of all.
And how do you interpret the so-called terror texts in Joshua 6:21 and Sam 15:3?
The way I look at it, the Bible is like a journal. If you were to keep a spiritual journal from the time you were a teenager now until you were like 50 years old, you'd have a nice stack of journals. And if you decided to go back and read some of your earlier writings and compare them to what you're writing now, you'd have a good laugh for yourself, because our faith evolves and we get healthier and deeper understandings of God. And so I think we're given the whole journal of the history of Israel and some of the most primitive notions of God, like the Song of Miriam for the crossing of the Red Sea. I mean, out of his nostrils comes the breath. You know, it's almost like God sneezes for the sea. So you get very primitive notions of God, leading up to very mature images of God, culminating in Jesus in the New Testament. You're seeing the whole picture. I think that's the value of keeping some of these earlier, God is marching with our armies and we're going to kill in his name, keeping that. I think with ISIS and some of those groups, they're so literalistic and frozen in time that they haven't grown with their scriptures.
And what can faith communities do to better educate members on the Bible?
Adult education. When I did adult education in the parish, I made sure that I started off with really good speakers, so that word would get around. And once word gets around, you got your core, a good core of people. I think also quality of homilies is important too. You can't do much in a homily, but you can give some background information that can really help scripture come alive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.